Righto. We're going to move to item 8.2, the adoption of standing orders. We had a good open workshop about that last week. This item is not really affecting the citizens, but affects some of us, all of us, and some of us are quite interested in this. The government says that they're going to do a uniform set of standing orders for council around the country to make us all the same as Gore, but we'll see how they're going to do that. There's also a helpful table in the back of the report which shows things that were raised and what's proposed. So, Councillor Gillen, you can see what the changes were essentially there. I could move. I'm happy to move this, and it can be seconded by whomever, the Deputy Mayor. And I'd welcome Andrew Pickering and Sandra Nair beside me, who's going to stay where she is to answer any questions. And note that we need a 75% majority to change this. So it will be taken by division when we get to the end of this. And it's a 75% of those present. Oh, some of them are wandering off. Okay, Andrew.
Kia ora koutou, Your Worship and Councillors. Andrew Pickering. Andrew Pickering, Head of Governance Services, and Sandra O'Toole, Manager for Governance Advisors. We're here to, as part of the review of the of your standing orders. We've made some structural changes to the document, but the main substantive changes are around the clearer processes for recording and support or opposition of parts of a motion, a resolution of ambiguity around votes expressed in parts but decided as a whole, and notices of motion. We've strengthened the provisions for petitions, clarifications around petitions, public input and local input. They're excluded from extraordinary and emergency and urgent meetings. We've proposed a change to electronic attendance. It no longer requires a meeting decision for participation, and members attending electronically must have their cameras on unless the chairperson agrees otherwise. We've amended the points of order, so all points of order and standing orders are cited. Orders cited will be recorded. And there's a table of those changes attached to the document. Sandra and I are happy to respond to any party. Thank you.
Councillor Ferry has the first question.
Kia ora, thank you. Can I just note it's very useful being able to request an opportunity to speak via the resolve system, but it doesn't have a button for questions. It only has for or against. So that's something we need to look at, I think. So thank you for this, and I think you've made the standing orders in general a lot easier to follow and read as well in terms of the rejig. I really appreciate the table. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. One is the electronic attendance. So the discussion we had in the workshop was that basically electronic attendance will be at the discretion of the chair, but I don't see that reflected here. It seemed to indicate there was a right to electronic attendance, whereas we were saying that there were those three reasons there. A, which was not able to be physically present on council business. B, which was around illness as a factor, and I'll come back to that in a second, and C was emergencies. So can I just clarify the expectation there is that if someone applies for electronic attendance, they need to satisfy the chair that they've met one of those grounds?
Yes, that's so. Yes.
Okay, great. And so further on B, and so I guess I just want to have this conversation in the meeting, just to be clear, so that where illness is a factor, that wording is deliberately loose so that it includes, like it might be a dependent who is ill or a parent or something like that. That's not restricted to the illness of the councillor. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Yeah, great. And my final question was just the amendments part. it doesn't mention the direct negative in the table. I'm just checking that we're still not supporting direct negatives, because it doesn't mention that because a direct negative is where you would just vote against.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure direct negatives are out, but
Yeah, they're still out, right? Yeah, great, cool. Thank you very much. Really appreciated the work on this.
Questions? Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Thank you. So just sort of following on from the attendance stuff. So is there a definition, and I didn't see it, but are we able to define what is council business? And so I mean, so a councillor organising a meeting at the same time of a shouldn't, I don't believe, be council business when they can avoid it on what their priority is.
That's right, councillor. The wording is kept. So it gives a broader definition for the chair and the councillor to have that discussion. So by prescribing it makes it a little harder, because circumstances can change. The reason for can be quite broad. So having an absolute rule doesn't give you the flexibility to have the discussion between the chair and the councillor. What you are talking about with council business there, it is quite clear as you start to talk through with your chairperson what council business is and council business isn't. But ultimately, it's a judgment between the two parties.
So the expectation is the chair will drill down into, with someone who applies for council business, that the chair will drill down and say, well, what exactly is that business, and make the determination.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. So in 3.5.6 and 3.5.7, it talks about technology. Point 6 says council has no obligation to make technology available. Point 7 says the chair must ensure that technology is available. So are we making it available? Whose job is it, and how does that work out?
Through the chair, we're covering both bases there, aren't we? Yes, we will absolutely make the facility available to the councillors, but sometimes, for whatever reason, it might not be available. So we're sort of trying to cover ourselves a little bit there.
Good questions, though. I think we are trying to get the situation where if there's a really important meeting here, just attending some minor thing somewhere out in the thing and saying that's council work is not, that would be a case where I think we really want you here rather than just opening some small thing somewhere. That's
That's the
what's
intention,
supposed to be happening, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think, sorry, Your Worship, there's a subtlety here too. If for some reason the technology doesn't work, it can't be the case that the decision's unsound, and yeah.
Right, just at the moment we're going back to old school stuff, and Councillor Filipaina, who's an expert in this, will ask a question. Thank you, Councillor Filipaina.
Tēnā koe hea mana. Tēnā koe, Andrew. Clarification. You said, and if I misheard you, please tell me, you said that it's the chair is the person that has to be satisfied, for want of a better term, to approve electronic attendance. Is that what you said?
Yes, I think that's what I said, yes.
Shouldn't the approval be based on the standing orders? And the reason I say that is in relation to what Andy was talking about when he said that, so the chair, depending on the reason that is given, for example, on council business, that the chair would have to drill down to their satisfaction to approve electronic attendance. I'm finding that wrong from my perspective. The standing orders are there for us to utilise. Why would it be the responsibility of the chair to, one, drill down, but also, more importantly, to approve when the electronic attendance should be based on standing orders? That's why I want to get some clarification of this, because I do not personally want the chair to start drilling down to other councillors saying, no, I believe that this is not council business, therefore then I will not be approving electronic attendance, when in standing orders, here are your obligations and the reasons you can at least approve, to put in a request to attend electronically. So can you explain that? Because I'm just a wee bit,
Through the chair, I'll have a go. The standing orders are a set of your rules of how you manage your behaviours and you operate your meetings. It's the chairperson who employs those rules and uses those rules. So it gives you flexibility, gives the chairperson and the member flexibility on having a discussion without having that prescribed rule that just says this and gives you no flexibility whatsoever. So effectively the chairperson is using the standing orders and they're applying the standing orders on behalf of the meeting.
So Andrew, you're the chair, and I need to do this because I'm a wee bit worried that this is going to get out of hand. You are the chair. I have asked for electronic attendance, and that electronic attendance is on council business, which is understanding orders, which is my right. Right? I've said I am seeking electronic attendance because I'm on council business. You're saying that now standing orders will give the right to the chair, whoever he or she is, to say, well, tell me, what is your council business? Well, I'm attending a meeting. What is that meeting about? This is what you're suggesting here, which I think is wrong. Because I know the chair is trying to sort of lead the meeting on behalf of the committee, right? But I don't think that they have the right to question any of us around this table, even the mayor. I don't think we've got the right. If the mayor said, look, I'm not here and I'm seeking approval to be online because I'm on council business, I just don't want to see this. Well, what's your council business? Why are you attending it now? I just don't see it. I'm glad the lawyer's here now. Well, so look, that's why
As a person who might be in a position to have to make a decision here,
I just don't want to see it. It's wrong for the chair. Sorry.
We've had a few councils' businesses which, once the phone's gone on, have turned out to be in cafes. If you are on council business, no one wants to. It's not like a police investigation, but you could say I'm attending Manukau students' launch, and that's all you've got to say. It's this approval for not being here. That's what it is. And so if there's and I think that if you're on council business, you'd be quite happy to say I'm doing it. If you're just at home reading the papers, then we'd rather have you here. So I think that's kind of like the thing we have had the odd thing with cups of teas and rattling on in the background, which is not an excuse for not being here. So we're trying to get people to come here. There's an obligation to come unless you can't. And if you've got an illness or a death, no one's going to go into what is your illness or your death. We'll accept that. But what is your council business? It wouldn't be too hard to say. I could just imagine most people saying, council sayers is often attending sewage meeting problems and Maharangi, and that's all he's got to say. But
Look, I understand the sentiment, Chair. I understand the sentiment, but my issue is that it's up to it's the satisfaction of the chair. That's my issue, because if I put in, and anybody around this table puts in, I'm attending a meeting with my constituents, I'm hoping that that's sufficient, and if the chair's not satisfied, I'm not going to answer any bloody question from the chair to say, oh, what are you talking to your constituents about? I mean, that's what I'm trying to sort of
we're
highlight
just trying to
here.
get a perspective here.
Yeah,
so is a meeting with a constituent, could it not be on another day than we publish the dates when we're going to meet as a governing body? Then just meeting a constituent is not really an excuse not for showing up on those days, unless it's a really, really important one. But Katie's got something to offer here, Alpha. I don't want to tangle myself up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought it would just help to note that that provision in the standing orders reflects clause 25A of Schedule 7 of the LGA that provides that where a member of a local authority, a member of the local authority has the right to attend a meeting of the local authority by means of audio link or audio visual link, and one of the conditions for that is that the presiding member at the meeting is satisfied that all conditions and requirements in the standing orders in relation to attendance at that meeting by means of audio link or audio visual link are met. So that just reflects the provision in the Act itself for the chair to be satisfied that the conditions set out in standing orders are met.
So, Katie, what you're saying is that there will be opportunities and the ability for a to and fro between the chair and the person who is asking for approval to attend electronically. That's what you're saying.
Yes, so it would be for the chair to confirm with the member that's requesting remote attendance to check that all the conditions and requirements as set out in standing orders are met, and that would be for the chair to check with the member.
I look forward to that discussion.
Councillor Watson, then Councillor Lee.
Yeah, the first question, this summary, Andrew, it contains everything. I haven't gone through it contains all the points that have been changed, so we only have to look at the summary to pick up everything that's been changed in the new standing orders?
Through the chair, I believe. Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, so I've got a question on the notice of motion. Two questions really. One, what was the rationale for not permitting any amendments, which has been the case in the past? I kind of agree with it actually, but I'm just curious to know what the rationale is for that. And the second question goes to the reasons for refusal and the subjectivity or otherwise of being refused if it doesn't include sufficient information as to satisfy the provisions of those various sections of the LGA. So one, what was the rationale for taking out amendments, and two, where does that that refusal for who's making the call on the sufficient information?
Through the chair, Sandra will help me out here. This is one for Sandra. Thank you.
I will confess that I had somebody asking me another question in my ear, so I missed half of yours. The rationale around no amendments. Yeah, no amendments to a notice of motion were around allowing the member that's put it forward to have that notice of motion debated without it being changed.
Good. And the other question went to this grounds for refusal in terms of insufficient information under the LGA. It doesn't include sufficient information. That wasn't on the previous standing orders, and I guess you know, how subjective is that, given, I guess it depends on what the NOM is asking for, but what's the interpretation of lack of sufficiency of information then?
That would be around giving us some background information so that you've got a really full picture of what the notice of motion is asking for, rather than just popping up a notice of motion with a very brief sentence and then what you want it to say.
Councillor Lee, I think that probably deals with one of your complaints, this particular change.
Yeah, I'm just curious about why the standing orders need to be changed, especially given the fact that the government is actually trying to draft consistent standing orders as a template, model standing orders, and here we go with our own set of standing orders, being fully aware what is happening. We're coming up with, if you like, a parallel set of new standing orders when the existing standing orders are certainly, without argument, fit for purpose. So I have a series of questions, and the first one is, why are we changing the standing orders so comprehensively, 30 extra standing orders, and when it is acknowledged that a forthcoming national template is being produced, and presumably we are meant to follow the national template. Why are we doing this now?
Through the chair, the review of standing orders is best practice to look at them every 3 years. We had started the review quite early on as the term was going through, picking up where the standing orders could be improved. The government's proposal came in quite late this year. We also took the opportunity to tidy up some of the issues that we had seen throughout the year, the electronic attendance and quorum being the main change. The government's standing order review, we're unsure when it will land. We think it will be, they'll have the act in place around, I think it's March, April of next year. The Secretary then has to authorise any new sets of standing orders, which may take another 6 months or so. So from our, hopefully also from your point of view, having our standing orders in place now gives us some more clarity before the government's standing orders arrives sometime next year, late next year. Thank you.
Okay, we are told that best practice, whoever is the authority on that, recommends that standing orders are reviewed within 6 months of an election. We have comprehensively changed our standing orders almost to the point of trivia, as if someone has gone through with a thesaurus, changing responsibilities of the chair to the chair's responsibilities. In other words, there almost seems to be a deliberate attempt to make these new standing orders completely difficult to compare with our present standing orders, to ascertain the changes. Why not only why the extra standing orders, and why has the wording been changed so comprehensively if the purpose is to, as we are told, provide a clearer and more accessible framework in the interim, strengthening good governance and open decision-making. Why has the new standing orders, proposed standing orders, been written so differently, even if the meaning is essentially the same, to make it completely difficult to compare with the existing standing orders? Why is that?
Through the chair, in a way, I think you answered your own question there. We've tried to make the standing orders a lot clearer, and that may mean that some of the clauses are broken up. We've tried to make things, well, more clearer, which is why the structure has changed. To give that clarity, to make sure that as best we can, the standing orders can be interpreted easily and cleanly for ourselves, yourselves, and the communities.
Okay. In terms of clarity, one of the standards in standing orders and meeting procedure from Parliament on down is that amendments must not be direct negatives, and that's included in these standing orders. However, we also have an amendment to a motion may be way of, an amendment by way of addition, an amendment by way of replacement, and we've been using that device illegitimately already without any provision in standing orders, and an amendment by way of deletion. What's happened to the direct negative principle when it comes to amendments? I mean, is that making things clearer, or will that cause more controversy and argument, because it's completely contradictory, those two provisions?
Through the chair, through the chair, we hope those proposed changes will make things clearer.
It's a bit of a shame you didn't come to the workshop there, Councillor Lee.
Well, this is the bit. This is the meeting. This is the governing body, is it not? This is on the agenda. Are we? What is Mr. Pickering here for?
I accept that, but it was a pity you didn't come to the workshop.
I've a further question. Is it? Do I read it that it's okay now to read speeches because that provision has been dropped, even though there are more standing orders now than ever before? So it's okay to read speeches?
That's correct, Councillor Lee. You can now do that.
That's not in the changes.
There was always a standing order that said that if you wish to read a speech, you could do so with the agreement of the chair. That's now been removed so that you can actually do that. I mean, you've got electronic devices now, which you probably all use like the rest of us. So that's why that provision has been taken out.
So, and also you can read speeches, but you may not criticise resolutions. This is a new standing order. Why can't one criticise resolutions? There is a qualifier in it that makes it more confusing, of course.
That provision has actually always been in the standing orders. It's probably just been a little bit buried.
Okay, and one of the rights, one of the rights of elected members is to ask for a report from the Chief Executive. A matter comes up, it may be introduced by the public. The members have the right to ask the Chief Executive to come back with a report. That's long-standing right of elected members. Now there's a standing order to say the Chief Executive may refuse to do that. So the governing body may decide or agree to ask the Chief Executive to come back with a report, and the chief executive has a right to say to the governing body, no, I'm not going to do it. How democratic is that? Why would that be put in there? Has this been abused in the past? Why has that been put in there?
Perhaps can I just share that I had the experience when I was a local board chair of having a notice of motion turned down by the organisation back in 2014, 2015, so I understand that's long-standing.
I think you have to have very good reasons for that. But if there are very good reasons, the chief executive is entitled to do that, but he's got to show his reasons, okay? And that's already in there, apparently.
Mr. Mayor, maybe we should wait for the new standard audit template to come from the government before we make such a comprehensive and I believe unnecessary change to our already fit for purpose standing orders, especially deleting some, but managing to increase the standing orders by 30 or so. I mean, that's bureaucracy gone mad, if I may say so, if that's allowed within standing orders.
Thank you for your input. I'll go to Councillor Newman next.
Your Worship, my question is actually a question to you and to Phil perhaps as opposed to Andrew. Just the mechanics of this, because I'm listening to these questions and this is an unusual item because this requires 75% of this room to adopt it. I'm not sure that there is 75% support, and if there isn't, then it falls over. So are we going to, notwithstanding if people were at or not at the workshop or what have you, are we going to proceed to a vote on this item today and for this to potentially fall over, or are we going to pull this and wait, or how do you plan to deal with this now?
Well, I'm going to proceed to a vote, and if it doesn't get 3/4 of the thing, we'll stay where we were. So and wait around for the government to tell us how to behave. But I think there's a golden opportunity for us to decide ourselves, because we might decide somewhat differently and use our size to tell the government that what was they've come up with, having spoken to the mayors of Horowhenua, wherever that is, in Gore, that they've chosen something or other which will fit for us. But if we're not sufficiently able to agree to something or other, well, that's fine by me too. I'm a great believer in democracy. We were trying to get at the nub of things was to encourage people to show up and have a good reason for not showing up, because there was behaviour which had crept into place as a result of COVID. Was we had some very poor attendances last time that were marked as very excellent because they were online, and we can't ultimately run this place online without knowing where the people really are online, and so that we're just trying to solve it. But if we're quite happy not to solve that, then I'm quite happy to go. So I'm not going to burn in the. It's not a burning issue for me, but I'm quite happy to receive that question, and that was a good question. Thank you very much. And I'll go to Councillor Foley.
That was quick. My question was about whether this is going to be voted on as an entirety for the whole thing, all the changes all together, or will we be voting on some of the changes? Because I think some of the changes are not so controversial, and perhaps others are ones where you might not get the 75%. So that's my question in terms of the voting process going forward. All in one big bang or separately?
Through the chair, all in one is the proposal.
Yeah. All right. Good question, though. Councillor Turner.
Thank you. Just going back to Councillor Filipaina, just if the chair says no, I'm not going to accommodate your request to be on council business, what's the result? The reason I'm asking that is because
My diary's really full. I'm on the Monga Authority. I'm on Water Care as lead councillor for Regional Parks. I'm on 2 Waitakere committees, and then we get all these placeholders put in for the governing body and for our committees of the whole, etc. And they all disappear right, left, and centre, and you're left with those one meetings with a constituent that that I've got one at the moment being put back 3 times because staff can't make it as well, and we've had to change. So my question is, if I come in here with a burning issue that I've put off 3 times, and the chair drills down and says, no, that's not really council business, and I go to it anyway and don't turn up, what's the result? I'm just put down as not attending, is that correct?
Well, it's always going to be, there's always be tricky circumstances, but I think what we're intending here was such, you might tell people before that you're going to, you'd have ring up and say, look, I'm not going to be there on Tuesday. I know it's an important meeting and I've got a meeting somewhere or other, and you can have a chat with the chair. I don't think this is supposed to be a public inquisition, but we just have things where people just go up and say, council business. You've got no idea whether it's council business. And
Mr. Mayor, I support us all having to turn up here and do the job. I just want to make sure that it's not one-sided. Thank you.
I think that all those little things set aside for things, I mean, the next effort is the meeting schedule, so you'll have some idea of what that is. If it's a workshop and things, well, we don't expect 100% arrival at a workshop, but this is the governing body. People are interested in what we're doing, and they would like to see us here a bit more often than we possibly have had. But we're about to do a vote on this, and I'll be happy to go with the flow on this. If that's good, that's all the questions I've got at the moment, so you can retire and we'll have a debate on this, which is probably what we've had already. And I think Councillor Filipaina probably wants to kick off. Do you want to debate on this or not? Okay. I do too. Good on you, Alf. Simpson?
I was just going to speak to it. Look, on a couple of things. One, I think, you know, we've been elected around the table to do this as a priority, the committees of the whole especially, right? And I think we've all got busy diaries, and I'm guilty like everybody else of having things in my diary that I need to, well, I believe I need to go to on council business. I think it's not a problem till it's a problem. So let's give it a go, is what I will say, and see how it mucks up. We've all got busy diaries. We all want to spend time in our constituency, but I do believe especially prioritising committees of the whole. We know they're now on Tuesdays and potentially it's on Thursdays, but those are the meeting days. And as the Mayor said, the next item's coming up. As for the government coming up with nationwide rules around this, look, you know, fine, let's have a look at it when it comes. But we're fulfilling our statutory role now of having a look at some standing orders. Give it a go and try first, all right? Don't complain before you start. Let's give it a go first. Give it the benefit of the doubt. Thank you. I would urge you to support the standing orders. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There you are. That's very good. Any debate? Councillor Watson.
I asked a couple of times about the summary of changes to the standing orders that are in our agenda, and I asked, is that all the changes that are being made? And the answer was yes, it was. However, Councillor Lee, and being a little bit more diligent than me, going through and comparing the standing orders as they are now, as opposed to what they're going to be in the future if this goes through. I mean, he came up with this one, which I regard as quite an important one, this one to do with reading speeches. So it's always been the convention here, far less the standing orders, that members must not read their speeches. And I think that's the convention in Parliament too, isn't it? Even though some of them to read it. So that's probably more relevant now than it's ever been before, because now, as most people will know, you can go to ChatGPT and say, well, you know, compose a 5-minute speech to me opposing the Mayor's budget or something. So are we going to have the spectacle now of 20 people reading their speech, in some cases maybe generated by ChatGPT? that's going to be a little bit tedious, isn't it? So that's actually quite an important one, because it goes to the manner of which the debate is conducted. And reading a speech, and particularly if it's a repetitive habit, then I don't think that's appropriate. Now, that's the one that Councillor Lee has picked up. I don't know if there's other ones there like that, because I haven't gone through and looked at every single one. I took
CEO can refuse the report.
I took the notion that that was the summary. I was okay with the summary, but obviously it doesn't cover all the matters that have been changed. So on that basis, I'm somewhat less confident on supporting this than I was when it started, and particularly if that reading speeches one is anything to go by. Thanks.
Thank you for that. I mean, if we all have the same speeches by chat, we might spot that, but you're right. And in terms of reading speeches, these bloody things here, it's amazing what people can pop in front of you. Some of the things that it's also come out today is that some of the things that were in the old rules, some of us didn't realise were there anyhow. So it's exposed that, if nothing else. I've got Councillor Ferry next.
Kia ora, thank you. Sorry, I forgot to do it through the button. I just wanted to say that I thought we had a really useful workshop discussion, and I know this is the decision-making opportunity, but I think some of what's been raised in the meeting today, we did have some really fruitful workshop discussion about. That was an open workshop as well, so those who were unable to attend could have gone back and watched it, and hopefully they did. But some of the questions and debate suggests maybe not. So that might be something people want to familiarise with themselves with for when they do miss a workshop. The issue about council business and the discretion of the chair, one of the examples I shared in the workshop was a local board member who was turned down. Their standing orders were a little bit different from ours, who was turned down by a chair. So there was for electronic attendance. So there has been some use of that already. In that case, I felt it was unfair, and the way that we have amended the B around illness for the factor of illness would have meant that that person had a right to attend. So there's some nuance here that I think is well captured in the new wordings. I was a little bit worried about that one landing right, and I think that that's a nice amount of flexibility. I think if chairs are misusing their right to decline, including the right to decline notices of motion, then I think we all have an ability to raise that. And I think most of us around the table have been pretty adept at raising process issues in the media as well. This is not the only forum we have. So I'm not too concerned about that, but maybe if we do find things don't work, as the Deputy Mayor's pointed out, we will bring them back here. Finally, I just wanted to touch on the issue around speeches. So that has been in the standing orders for a long time, that other than maiden speeches, we're not supposed to read a speech. However, it hasn't been enforced. So right through last term, I saw a variety of members using speeches and it not being raised as a problem. And so from my point of view, this is just making clear a change that had already happened by custom and practice, because people were doing it for the last 3 years and it wasn't enforced, and it wasn't brought up as an issue either. So I don't have a problem with it personally. If people are going to use ChatGPT, that's kind of on them. I personally don't, but that's a conversation for you with your constituents, I guess, about if you're not feeling confident enough to do that. But it does enable people who might otherwise be quite nervous in what is an intimidating environment to actually feel more prepared and more able to articulate themselves, particularly those who are new to the table. It's not a practice I've done. I write bullet points and then speak to those. But I think it's a good, flexible way of acknowledging this can be quite scary. So that's my contribution. I will be supporting these standing orders. Thank you.
Thank you for raising that. I think that it's not a conspiracy to change things. It was in response to things we've observed. And as a person who was probably unable to fully police the speech thing, you can't really see what people are reading. Some people would be improved if they wrote down their questions and read them out, rather than rattling on for hours. So the speeches are often shorter than what they say, so that's not entirely bad. Councillor Lee, you did raise one when you didn't like people amending your point of order, and we've listened to you and we've made a change that's in your favour, which is odd for a person who doesn't seem to like this. I'll have Patterson, Hamlin and then Fletcher. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was similar to Julie's point in that my practice personally, and I know everybody approaches this differently, is to kind of jot down points, especially if there's information like facts and figures to be remembered. I'm doing it right now to make sure that I don't get sidetracked and stay on my point. I'm not sure if that counts as reading a speech or not, but it's certainly how I operate best, and I'd hope that that would be able to be incorporated without too much trouble.
Right, Fletcher?
I didn't put my hand up, but
let's pop it down.
I think given you have given me the opportunity, the only observation I want to make on this is that we are different to the rest of New Zealand insofar we are the only council, as I think, where you as mayor have the authority to create the governance structure and to do the appointment of chairs and deputy chairs. So whether that throws a different complexion on the way in which chairs might interpret requests or not is something that is running through my mind, because I think we are all wanting to have good democracy in Auckland Council. We are all wanting to have the contest of good ideas and to get to the bottom of things and to have evidence-based decisions being taken. But what has come through in the questions is perhaps a slight skew that maybe people might be intimidated or unduly influenced. I mean, I don't know. So whether we should wait for a model that the rest will be adopted by the rest of New Zealand, or whether we should do something that is bespoke to Auckland, is given the authority you have in this. I suppose the question is how you're going to exercise that privilege and responsibility that you have. So I'm all for trying something new, but I would like to believe that it's going to be done in good faith.
Well, thank you for that question. I would hope to exercise it sensibly and with caution. I think if we don't do this, we remove the opportunity for us to say we're different, and we're just lining up for the rest of the country to get us the Gore Horofanua rules. If we pass this ourselves, we've preserved the ability, if the government come up with something that isn't going to work, to say, we've just done it ourselves, we don't need your help. So I'd caution not supporting this. Councillor Hills, please.
Kia ora, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I have a couple of issues, but I'm not going to vote against, because I guess trying to get all of us to agree on something quite specific is hard anyway. But yeah, I do have concerns that I think we should monitor. I do, and I know that Andy had brought it up at the workshop too, have concerns about the everyone counts for quorum from the beginning. I kind of understand if people tail off during the meeting and have to go to other things, but I do worry that essentially could be the mayor or the chair or whoever alone in this room, and we can start the meeting and be here for an hour or so just by ourselves or with a trickle of people. I understand there are good reasons for electronic attendance, but I would hope that the majority, or even if it's slim, are in the room most of the time, especially for the Tuesday committee. So I do worry that the change that everyone counts for quorum, whether you're in person or online, starts from the beginning. It just might lend itself to not good governance, but I'm willing to see. And I hope that people, I think I've almost been in the room for all meetings, but have been online for a couple to illness and things. So I understand there is reasons, but I hope over time. The other one is the notice of motions. It wasn't brought up in the in the workshop, really. We didn't discuss it, so I felt a bit blindsided. But I do understand that it may mean the mover has to work across the table pre the meeting to get a good resolutions up on the table that will be likely passed. But I do worry that if the notice of motion resolutions become part of the meeting, they should be able to be amended if there's a majority. That's just democracy to improve it or change it. But I guess we'll see how that's managed throughout. But it could end up that people could abuse it by just putting up sort of political statements, and we just have to vote, 11 votes yes, 10 votes no, whatever, as opposed to the ability to sit around the table and improve it or make it nuanced. So that will be an interesting one. But yeah, I'm happy to support the standing orders, even though I don't.
Okay, thank you for that. I think if we get to the stage where no one shows up other than the chair, we might have noticed that we might need to review it again. And there's nothing preventing us doing it. This is just an effort to try and improve things. I think we've got no more, so I'm going to put this to a vote. It'll be a vote by, what do you call? Division. And because we have to get 75% here, so those that be against it can be against it. Councillor...
Yes, just a minute.
Councillor Lee wants to have a chat.
I want to make the point, Mr. Chair, that I understand this was this matter was looked at a workshop, but obviously not as thoroughly as it might have been. Probably because workshops tend to be briefings rather than all-in participation meetings. But anyway, leaving that aside, there are a number of concerns here. Significant changes and extension to the existing standing orders, which are fit for purpose, at the same time as the central government is trying to create a new nationwide template. It just seems like bureaucratic rivalry to me and a waste of public money and time. However, the real concern here, and Councillor Watson has noted what I said about reading the speeches. It's actually, that just indicates that the differences have never really been highlighted. They're certainly not highlighted in the report. There's no clarity on this in the report, the agenda report, but there are significant changes that concern me. And one is criticism on resolutions. The rights of members to criticise a resolution have been significantly restricted. I think that is a concern. The other issue is the right of the chief executive. The chief executive may delay or refuse a democratic request. I can't live with that one, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor. And finally, you mentioned an amendment that was made to benefit me, or words to that effect, and that must be 3.19.5, alteration of a notice of motion. From now on, one cannot alter or amend a notice of motion. If the standing orders had been complied with, it wouldn't have been an issue, and of course I refer to the long debate over helipads, to make helipads a prohibited activity. But it seemed to me that the council, members and staff felt the rights of billionaires to have helipads could not be opposed. And therefore, they went to the lengths of actually coming up with a thing called an amendment by way of replacement, which does not exist in our current standing of orders, but lo and behold, they're going to be in the new standing orders, in complete contradiction to the standing order 3.15.8, amendments must be relevant and not direct negatives. So all of those are changes Mr Chair, the 30 extra standing orders do not help the governance, do not help clarity, are going to be divisive, are going to be ambiguous and therefore contentious, and they will therefore achieve the direct opposite of what the report promises would be achieved by adopting these new extra standing orders, at the same time in rivalry with those of the central government, it seems. So I think I cannot support these changes, especially so quickly after the election before people have become familiar with them. And obviously people are not familiar with them despite workshops. We need to do better. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank God for that. Okay. I'm going to put the motion. Yeah, we said by division.
Thank you, councillors. This is going to be your first electronic vote. We're going to start the vote in a moment and you will get a message on your screen. You will vote at that time. If you need any help from any of the staff around the room, please put your hand up and we'll endeavour to do that. So we're going to start the vote now. We have the Mayor registered and we have Councillor Lee registered. And we're just waiting for Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Fletcher will register yours manually if you're happy.
Are you for it?
The Mayor has voted. Councillor Lee has voted. Yes, we've done it manually for them.
Councillor, you have the ability to register a vote directly.
Okay, councillors, we have completed the vote count. So, yep. So as you can see, it's been carried 15 votes to 3 with 1 abstention.